Town of South Windsor. This is Tuesday, December 6th. Ether, have you achieved a roll call? Okay, so get down, item B on the agenda is to accept the minutes of our November 2nd meeting.
Motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Second it.
Okay, any comments? I have one change on the second page, item 2, first line. That should say this weekend, not this evening.
Oh, okay.
Good catch.
Okay, any other changes or comments? Take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ether. Second item on the agenda is election of a secretary. We do not have a secretary because Carol Frederick, who'd been with the authority since 1987, has resigned. So I'm looking for any idea who could. I don't know, Jim, would you consider?
No.
It's a
No.
it's a sinecure. You get credit, but you don't have to do anything.
I don't need
I
credit.
nominate Joseph.
Yeah, Joe.
Joe's already the vice chair.
Vice chair.
Oh,
You nominate Toby.
oh, you guys don't want me. I'm like the last man standing, I guess.
I'm too new. You're the guy.
No,
Hey, fill the bill. Look good in your resume. You're still working.
I don't need a resume.
Look good in your resume.
I ask that we wait for next meeting when more people will be here.
Okay. Next item, 444 Nutmeg Road North, prime material approval to connect. Is there anyone here from that organization?
Yes, we have DPI here, and we'll be representing them. Just.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, we've got it.
And the
Oh, you are, okay.
So the
documents are in our handout, so.
the flow from this facility will go directly to the treatment plant. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah. You can go ahead and
Thank you,
I'll add
Tony.
some comments as we go.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Daniel Jameson, project manager at Design professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. And here to talk about the proposed sanitary connection for Prime Materials located at 444 Nutmeg Road South. You may know it as GNS Scrap Metal is the name of the facility. Prime Materials purchased it from GNS Scrap Metal back in 2008 and have been operating it, 2018 and have been operating it since then. They are proposing to do a 29,600 square foot storage building to move some of their outdoor operations inside of the building in order to accommodate sewer service for the building, provide sewer service for the building. We are proposing a 6-inch sanitary sewer lateral to connect. Oh, that got really blurry. Sorry, guys. The sanitary sewer lateral to connect to the existing sanitary main and along Governor's Highway. We are proposing a sanitary sewer manhole right on our property, where an easement will be provided around the manhole to allow access for the town for monitoring. No floor drains are proposed with this storage building. This is only to accept runoff or accept flows from domestic or bathrooms and faucets in the building from their break room and office components of the building. We are considering the 29,600 square foot building size at a rate of 1.1 gallons per day per square foot per the Connecticut Public Health Code. We anticipate the peak flow from this site. The generated discharge from this site would be 2,960 gallons per day. Water will not be used for any industrial processes, and there will be no industrial process discharge to the sewer service. With that, we ask that the sewer assessment fee be based on the 3.35 acres of disturbance associated with the proposed storage building. and that the capacity charge be based on the final water meter size once it's selected. With that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And, yeah.
Yeah, so, point of clarification, the assessment is actually the connection charge, which is based on the buildable acreage, so it wouldn't be a benefit assessment. It's two separate fees, but
Okay. Got you. So
just wanted to
assessment and
clarify
then
that. Yep.
10-4.
So I'll ask members of the authority if they have any questions. Mr. Murray?
Nope.
Joe?
No.
When you say outdoor operations coming indoors,
Yes.
what operations are those?
So right now they've processed a lot of steel here,
Right?
and so they will be moving a portion of that inside, so they can
For
still
storage
operate.
only?
For storage and still processing of it, breaking stuff down and ripping or however they kind of break the products down to separate the different materials and.
They won't be, they don't use any chemicals for that at all?
No, from our understanding, they just they get clean stuff. It is a requirement that they accept clean, drained equipment or steel materials. And they basically this area is to separate the different types of steel, iron from steel and different qualities of steel. And yeah, basically just the same stuff that they do outside will be done
The
inside.
scrap metal dealers, right?
Yeah, it's a scrap metal deal.
They're separating.
Yeah, so there's no floor drains. It's not a mechanical shop to fix their vehicles on site. It is to just do the same operations, storage and processing inside.
So, Ms. Poliulis,
Yes,
you just arrived, but you had a chance to review the handout. Do you have any questions for these folks?
I don't right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Um,
Good day.
Secretary.
So the building is actually U-shaped, but there's a covered area there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Mr. Ryan.
just remembering from the planning and zoning meeting.
Yes, yep. So
Okay.
so the 29,600 is the building, which is enclosed here, U-shape. This is just a canopy essentially over pavement.
You have offices in the other building, in the existing building, is that
There
what
are
you have?
offices in the existing building, and there are approximately 165 square feet of office in this building, but the way the building code or health code determines flow from office, it ends up being 0.1 gallons per day per square foot for an office, just like an industrial, so 29,600 being evaluated at the 0.1 still considers that space too.
Okay. How do we feel about the request that we only consider the acreage of the new building,
As opposed to what?
the whole site? Because they already have a connection on the other
Yes, sir.
building.
So it goes out to this sanitary ladder.
Well, Tony, how does town feel about that?
Yeah, that's pretty standard to how we've done things at charge in the past. You take the buildable acreage. So if this was the original building, it would be on the entire site. But for an additional building, it would be the area they're constructing on.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'm sorry so this is, what is your industrial, I'm sorry,
No problem.
the industrial purpose here?
This is a steel scrap metal processing facility. Yeah.
So what kind of permitting do you require for that?
So it is an existing use. They're operating under, it's the same operation. They're just gonna move some of it inside.
Okay,
Allow storage of material, but they aren't changing the use, so they will operate
okay,
under the
so
existing
it's
use.
just expanding it, basically.
Yeah, expanding it, but just kind of same area of work, just kind of putting things inside. It's cleaning up things on site quite a bit. If you look at the aerial,
Right.
quite a change to the site.
So your stormwater permitting is intact and all that?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, yep.
And
So-
the state is aware of your expansion and your changes to your plan, your stormwater pollution prevention plan?
So we have, going through the wetland and planning and zoning approval process. We did come up with a spill prevention plan, because there is a existing fuel tank on site.
Right.
So we will be providing, some spill.
More than 1,300 gallons?
It is a double walled, I'll have to get the actual name. It is over 1,000 gallons, I would say for sure.
So
but-
1,300 gallons gets you into the spill prevention control and countermeasures planning. So are you now, is that new to the site?
No, that's been there, but we
Okay.
are we're bringing it to that requirement, and based on the plan, it is going to be brought to a higher level than what is actually needed for that. They're going to be training and all types of things within that spill prevention plan that will be put together by ESI Environmental
So,
Services.
so you have a current one?
There's a
in place
current one,
already, right?
yes, that
Okay.
they're
So
operating
you're just
under.
amending it at the moment?
We aren't amending it, but the site owner will take care of that process as needed
Okay.
to satisfy DEEP, yes.
Okay, so they'll be handling the SPCC and then the stormwater.
We don't have to do deep for this one, we aren't disturbing more than 5 acres, so our construction and stormwater discharge, we don't have to submit to them, but we
Right.
did do an erosion control plan, which was approved by Planning and Zoning and the Wetlands Commission. So from that standard, we feel we have, satisfied and provided a plan that will protect the environment from construction operation. And then the site owner will take on the responsibility of ensuring that they have their permitting needs to satisfy the storage building, but the operation is gonna remain the same.
Got it,
Yes.
thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Lewis, you got
I'd like to make a motion to approve the connection of 444 Nutmeg Road, subject to the following conditions. 1, technical approval by the engineering department. 2, the sewer line is installed in substantial conformance to the design plans. 3, a monitoring assessment to the monitoring sewer manhole in favor of the town. And 4, payment of the following charges will be updated and due at the time of connection, the rates for which will be in effect until June 30th, 2023. A connection charge in the amount of $15,111.81 for 3.57 buildable acres. And B, capacity charge to be determined by the size and quantity of water meters.
Okay, just a minor, I think you misread the word easement on line 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? In which case we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Thank you so
Any
much.
opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Robertson. Davis.
Yes, Jim, that's me.
So the next item on our agenda is 591 Ellington Road, which is the Pleasant Valley Elementary School.
This project was previously approved. This is the addition of the modules and the additional flow, so we're actually approving the increase in flow this
Okay.
evening. It's not an actual new connection.
It's actually a very nominal increase, right?
It is.
Go ahead.
So, once again, for the record, Dan Jameson, project manager at Design Professionals, in the state of Connecticut. And yes, it is a very nominal increase, Mr. Chair. We're expecting it to increase 48 gallons per day. Essentially, we are proposing a 1,300 square foot addition to the building. It is just one classroom, a storage closet, and a bathroom. The classroom will be used to accommodate special needs children, 4 to 6 children with 2 teachers, 1 to 2 teachers assistants. So with that, based on the 6 additional pupils, we anticipate the increase in sanitary flow to be 48 gallons per day per the Connecticut Public Health Code. This increase would increase the original flow of 13,890 gallons per day for the total site to 13,938 gallons per day. Increased with the increase of staff and population from 926 originally to 932, considering the 6 new students. With that, there is no change in the water size to accommodate this addition. We aren't proposing, there are no need for additional grease traps to accommodate the addition. It is just a classroom. We are still maintaining the same 6-inch service, and the connection to Ellington Road, the existing manhole, is still to remain the same. So, with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Lewis?
May I go right to the motion? I don't have any questions.
We can do the motion and then ask for discussion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve 591 Ellington Road the additional wastewater generated from 1,300 square feet addition to Pleasant Valley Elementary School.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. We'll continue with discussion. Mr. Gottick?
No question.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Mr. James. Just gonna get your name right.
By the end of the year, you will. Or next year, maybe.
Which leads us to a discussion of odor control improvements. And I'm free to lead us through that.
Thanks.
Okay, so what we're handing out is an odor control improvement action plan, that was drafted up. And it's just kind of laying out the next 12 months, steps that are gonna be taken as we move along with the odor control improvement plan. The VPEX and Pure Air systems, they're currently in the works, as you know. We're looking at January for installation dates, so we'll be able to evaluate their effectiveness by February. Decision will need to be made on the best odor control option for the sludge storage tanks. That we have a pilot system, VPEX system being set up in January on the sludge storage tanks. So once it's a 30-day pilot, so we'll be able to make a determination on their effectiveness at that time. We also did get a quote from the Pure Air reps to install a Pure Air system, which is a carbon unit on the sludge storage tanks. So we'll have a decision to make in February on which direction we want to move in.
Excuse me, Tony, is that a fair time of year to be doing an assessment of that? Because isn't the odor, because of the cooler air, less than in warmer weather?
It shouldn't really make too much of a difference because we'll be measuring the H2S inside the tank. And really it's generated when the mixers come on or just when we're pumping over or anytime the material's disturbed, you have that release of gas. So we'll be measuring the gas throughout that time.
But the odor is more noticeable in warmer weather, yes.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on that real quick?
Yeah.
I think the intent, at least from my perspective, would be that we'd be testing the Vapex with those mixers running. I mean, provided that we're seeing that it's working. But I think the idea would be to turn the mixers on, which gives us our worst H2S conditions, because we want to make sure that it's going to meet our highest demand. So whereas right now we're running with those mixers off and maybe we only have, typically 15 or 20 parts per million versus over 200 with the mixers going, we're going to want to see what it's going to be able to do with the highest possible load.
Thank you.
So even if out in the our atmosphere here, you're right, in the winter time, I don't know a ton about it, but atmospheric conditions seem to be such that it's not as much of an issue. To Tony's point, that's not going to change what's going on inside the tanks. And if we have a month with this thing, we want to make sure that it's going to meet our highest demand. So that would be my intent.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna shut off my phone, which I forgot to do. Excuse me.
So that'll bring us into the April timeframe. Once the decision is made, then we can start moving forward with the selected odor control improvement we want to go with.
Maybe before you go on,
Yep.
I'll ask a question I asked you in person. Why can't we just leave the Vapex sitting there if we like it?
So my understanding is it's a trailered unit. It's for pilot demonstrations, and they move it around the country. So for instance, from what I understand, it was coming from Los Angeles. Had to go in for some maintenance, so there were some shipping delays, and that's why we're delayed in getting it. We're supposed
Where's
to
it
get
made?
I
Always ask that question.
can't recall. I think you did ask that.
China.
I think
was the
that
question?
China?
was that in Georgia.
No, don't get me going. Go over the
Oh, where's it manufactured?
Yeah,
Right.
I think it was Georgia manufacturer.
Georgia?
I believe so. I'll find out, because I think you asked me that
Always, you know,
a few months
I
ago.
hate to have a buck leave the country and
So
put it
the-
out here.
The point of the question is, it's not a situation where we have an installation and we like it, we keep it. The truck with this demonstration unit will move on to another site after our demonstration.
What if the truck is Plan A and they end up installing a permanent thing that's Plan B?
It doesn't
know,
work. What do we do?
I know,
Well,
so.
we could steal the truck.
I'm sorry, the older I get, the more cynical I become.
The good news is, when I was asking for lead times as we were going through this process, just to kind of see,
Yeah.
and the lead time on actually getting, you know, a brand new unit, and I write a PO, how fast do I get it, was like 4 to 6 weeks, which was considerably faster than it was to get this rental. And the other advantage is we're not getting, you know, I'm gonna say beat up. I'm not suggesting that it hasn't been well taken care of, but it needed a pretty substantial
Overhaul.
mechanical overhaul, because we thought we were gonna be getting this, Tony, originally it was supposed to be like September, October. So that delayed us. So I think that as long as things haven't changed considerably, if we do decide to move forward with it, it feels like, based on the last lead times that I got, that we should be able to get one in place relatively quickly. And at that point, all the other infrastructure necessary for that equipment is already there.
Okay.
So that'll smooth things out a little.
Yeah, so once we get the gravity thickeners and the sludge storage tanks taken care of, that's gonna change the entire dynamics, and the pressure being applied to the biofilter, which I'm calling the west side of the treatment facility. So at that point in time, once we remove sludge storage and gravity thickeners offline, we'll have to have it reevaluated through an engineering firm, come up with a best design point, and that's when I'd like to go out for an RFP, request for proposals, to do that work and make a recommendation. So, you know, we've had a few different ideas. The original evaluation, was it a year ago now? They recommended keeping the biofilter and using some sort of synthetic media. There's also a recommendation to use carbon units. We've also had ideas of using individual carbon units for the headworks building, control building. So at that point, I'd like an engineering firm to look at it and design the appropriate system that would work best in that application. But the air exchange rates, the SCFM flows, and all the piping, that's all gonna be changed once we take off the east side of the facility.
How's our process comparing to other towns that have already been there, done that?
For odor control,
Yeah, so is this we're following best practice?
yeah,
Or we're forging a new path?
So everybody, no, we're doing best practices. Everybody has a different odor control system, and as Jeff and I have toured different facilities, it's been clear there's a different system for, everybody has a different system. There's no one, you know, this is how you do it.
Gold standard.
Right, yeah, they're gonna use what works for them. The biosorbents, which is the synthetic media for the biofilter, that works for a community out in Rhode Island, that Ty and Bond has recommended we go look at. But I think at this point in time, I know the residents are a hard no on keeping the biofilter, and I'm getting the sense from the authority that we kind of want to move away from the biofilter as well. So this will give us an opportunity to look at a couple different technologies and decide what avenue we want to go down.
So let's talk about the money we're gonna spend, when we're gonna have to spend it, and where we're gonna get the money from. I know that, I told you before, Senator Anwar has offered to try to put some of our costs in the next budget, the fiscal '24 budget.
With the state?
For the state, yeah, get the state to pay for this, basically.
Yeah, possible,
So it sounds to me like the gravity thickener, the $61,000, is gonna be in this fiscal year.
Correct, that was approved and
the Vapex, by your plan, would come in the next fiscal year, is that true?
Yeah, that would be correct. Yep.
So if you take that,
And the state grant on both of those, that's really a question mark after that. We don't know if we have a state grant.
okay. And then the west side, basically, you know, this is the, total solution here, the $2 million, and you describe it as, well, go ahead and talk about what the west side would involve.
Sure. So the west side, that includes the Headworks building, the control building, and then I've also included and talked to an engineer who helped give us budgetary numbers. Again, these are very rough budgetary numbers, just that we're using right now. We didn't take a deep dive into this yet. But we were talking about covering the anoxic tanks, which they're an open air tank. There's some light mixing going on. It just keeps the material stirred up. But there is a little bit of odor that could be contributing to some of the odor issues that we've been, the complaints that we've been getting. So that would be part of the project as well. And then there's also, it's a smaller area. It's the primary effluent spillway that when you walk by it, there's an odor there as well. But I think once you get 15 or 20 feet away, I don't notice it.
Maybe we should do a show and tell then, have a meeting down there then in the spring.
Yeah, we do meet in April.
You know what I'm saying? You're talking about spending money. What are we spending on? You can
Yeah.
actually, a picture's 1,000 words, and then you can add.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so when we have our meeting down there, or we can change the
look at
site
it.
at some point.
We
And,
understand what, you're saying all these words, you're an expert, you're an engineer.
Now, is
Yeah.
that the one with the rubber mats? We could try to cover it, or?
yeah, we can try that. Yeah. Yep. We've talked about doing that.
Okay, yep, I remember that.
So the idea is I'd like to come out of this meeting with what we as a group want to ask the state to do for us. You have a
They're gonna pay
Vapex
for
line
it
and a
for us.
Pure Air line. Are those alternatives or are they to be added together?
So that, we'll make a decision on if we want to go Vapex or Pure Air. That's for the sludge storage tanks.
It's an either or.
Yeah, the Vapex system, that's actually 2 units. So the number was it was like $180,000, I think, and
What-
I added 5% from last year's.
As Toby mentioned, what do other towns do? What's Glastonbury do, what's Simsbury do?
I'm not familiar with Simsbury, but Glastonbury has.
They're in the same floodplain as what you were, so.
Yeah, they have so Glastonbury has a small carbon unit that they use on their sludge processing. They also a chemical unit that they don't use, and that's really just kind of they pump the odorous air through a chemical mist, chlorine, essentially,
That's not good.
and it strips it. We've been to Mattabasset. They use a little bit of everything. They have carbon. They have the
Who's that?
chemical.
Mattabasset?
Mattabasset. That's in Cromwell.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Sounds like Cape Cod, sound like a Cape Cod name.
Oh no. Yeah. So, like I said, everybody has a little bit different system. We've been to Southington. They had the Vapex system. And that's why
Something
we
has
went down
everything.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a massive carbon system.
They have a much bigger tax base too.
They spent a ton, I mean, the amount of infrastructure in that place is crazy, but they just really went and did everything. But I think the point is, the places that we've gone and seen, there's really nobody that I think that we've gone and seen that's bringing all the odorous air to one common point. All these little areas are being treated individually. And not always with the same exact system. Sometimes there's different ways to go about it, but it seems to be a trend that, we've seen at the other places we've been to.
That's like a shotgun approach.
What's that?
A shotgun approach, spread it out, which could work, and you have one bad one, if you have it all in one spot and it goes bad, woo.
Yeah, there is a
Yeah,
thought that
everybody
you're
run
bringing
up.
everything to one common point.
That goes down, you got a problem.
Could be, yeah, it could be problematic,
You
and
got
you're
real
concentrating it all in one area, so.
So
it
what's
does-
happening with our system is it's getting, that one point is getting overloaded.
Yeah,
Yes, yep, I mean, there are other places, I know Upper Blackstone uses a biofilter, but they have total, there's a different type of material that they use. It's completely enclosed, so they have total control over moisture and, you know, the degradation of that material. It's, you know, they're massive, but it's just a different application, so. But just to add real quick, but again, we've discussed this before, that, you know, once the gravity thickener and sludge storage is done, now we're really starting to nitpick. I think those two, and I hate to throw a percentage at it, but we'll take care of a vast majority of the problem, and what Tony's talking about is then going out and getting the other little tidbits to it, really.
so gravity is a big one, and just sludge, those are the,
Sludge storage,
those are the killer, those are the killers?
Those are the big ones, yeah, yep.
So basically, if we're going to do all this work, we need to either come up with $2.4 million or, because you're gonna do let's say we do the Vapex, and then we do the other 2 million, to cover the anoxic tanks and the headworks building and the control building. So I think we need to sit down with either Senator Anwar or his aide and ask what format they need this proposal to come in. I mean, how do we feel about this plan, though, before we do that?
In my mind, we might not even need this, right? The less expensive options might work, right? And we'll be sitting in a much better place.
Yeah, so you're talking for sludge storage tank?
Yeah, like I was just thinking, you know, like the Vapex, the sludge storage, once we complete those, we might not need the $2 million improvement, right?
That could be, although there are odors being generated but treated with the biofilter coming from the other. They're more consistent odors, versus, you know, we left the mixers on last month, you know, 1 or 2 days, or I think for a day, you know, operator error, and that kicked up a bunch, and then we had a huge shock load to the biofilter, which got out to the neighbors. So the biofilters are designed, it's a biological process, and it's just designed to handle a steady stream of flow. When you send, you know, you leave the mixers on, then you have this huge slug of odor going to it, it's not gonna be as effective.
But back in the day, we left them on all the time, right?
We did, that was just the mode that it was operating, and I don't think we really understood until we started turning them off. The idea is that the material that's in those tanks is staying, you know, homogenized, and that it's staying, you know, somewhat fresh, because that stuff starts going septic, and now you've got worse problems. But what we're realizing is that you don't need them on all the time. I mean, we load out 3 days a week,
Yeah.
right? So the other 4 days, we completely leave them off. On days that we load out, we can start them 10 minutes before we start loading out. And by the time that person's giving a load, it's a homogenized liquid that's going in.
Mhm.
So, and that's great for a lot of reasons, not just for the odor control, but now we're running equipment less. But a lot of this stuff is stuff that there was recommendations that were made after the upgrade in the operations and maintenance of the plant, and we're finding that, you know, we don't necessarily have to follow all those recommendations. This is just one of those things.
Okay.
So as Tony was saying, though, had operator error and there was some overage. So there must be a process in place to limit that, because obviously processes are one thing, but human error is another, and neighbors tend to be unforgiving
Sure.
sometimes so.
We're actually in the process of having the engineers that work on our SCADA system. We're looking at having them give us the opportunity to put those mixers on a timer. So they would just come on days that we're loading out, and then we would set a certain point at the end of the day, and they would time off. So that would kind of eliminate that. It's not something that happens very often, but I'd be lying if I said it's, you know, every now and then a pump gets left off, something, you know what I mean? Those things do happen, but that would take some of that human element out of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think large part of my career was dealing with human error in another industry. And, you know, one of the principles is that even your best, most capable people make mistakes. And therefore, the idea is to find ways where you don't give them the opportunity to make the mistake. So putting a timer on or putting a Vapex in doesn't matter. You know, they're not gonna make that error because they can't make that error. So that's the way to deal with, you know, human performance.
You're locking out screw-ups, that's what, it's essentially, you know, colloquial language, but you're trying to lock them out, screw-ups.
I mean, that's why we have interlocks in our cars and interlocks all over the place, okay?
Okay.
So again, back to this, I mean, I think and I don't think we need a vote, but I think we kind of need a consensus that we do or do not want to ask the state to be able to fund this amount of money. If we don't need it, we won't spend it, obviously.
Tony, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify, what would be the ask initially? Because no steps are going to be taken until some sort of reevaluation's been done, and then we get new recommendations. Is that?
Yeah, generally we'd just be asking for whatever those recommendations are and then covering noxing tanks.
Well, I mean, the problem is that the budget cycle for the state is starting now, okay? So we need to kind of pin down our request before we know the result of these evaluations.
Yeah,
So
we're using
let's get it
budgetary
in there, and then, I mean, we're not gonna know what we wanna do until March. That's too late to get it in the budget.
All right, so we're gonna ask for it all.
Yeah.
We'll ask for it all.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
okay.
Run in with your cup and that's when you're,
Mhm.
I know Harvard will be there, so.
And when you get your, you know, we're not gonna do this engineering evaluation until June. So, I mean, by that time, that's about when the budget should be passed, in June. You probably know this better than me, right?
Now when it comes to, well, this is town budget.
No, we're talking about state budget.
Oh, state budget, I don't, their fiscal year is October to October.
Yeah, okay, but I think they passed the budget in like July.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
We'd
you're
like
looking,
to.
you were looking for a consensus, and my consensus is that Tony and Parks and the Water Pollution Control are going in the right direction, and taking the right steps, and let's continue with that process.
Yeah.
Are you communicating this, or will you communicate these proposed steps to your local email group?
The
The
residents?
Yeah, the residents.
Yeah. If there's a consensus with, you know, these milestones, Steve and I had talked about sending this out to that group and just let them know, you know, this is the action plan that we're prepared to go forward with, and, you know, we're still looking at state funding for some of the improvements.
Now, if we don't get the state funding, which is a distinct possibility,
Body shot.
we would,
Try the referendum route if we get support from the town.
With this, you got the school ones going on, school referendum.
I know, it's expensive in South Windsor, not to mention our values of our homes have just,
Oh, please.
well, not the value, but the cost of them.
the unfortunate thing there is that the housing market went up a lot more than the industrial, so even if, I mean, the total tax, you know, as the assessments go up, you can lower the mill rate. But
First correct.
the proportion of the budget that's held by the housing, single-family housing, is gonna go up.
Yeah.
And that means our actual taxes will go up, you know, our individual taxes, even though the total taxes may only increase a little nominal amount. So that's gonna be,
The burden shifts, that's what you're saying, essentially.
I mean, I think we'll have to look at our capital improvement plan. We're gonna start our budget discussion, next month?
Yep.
Look at our capital improvement plan, and I mean, we've got other priorities, which include making sure that our pipes are still unblocked. not collapsing. So we're gonna have to be defending that need as well. So anyway, we will need to have a contingency plan where we don't get any money from the state. And that may involve, I don't know, could involve a rate increase or something, you know. That'll all be ironed out starting next month.
So Steve, the other thing is that as this process continues though, and we get further down the line, when we've had a chance to actually put the systems that we're trying out in place, that'll already be starting to give us and then you all a better idea of, you know, are we heading in the right direction? And I think that we are.
Yeah.
Does-
Okay.
Does the state typically fund these types of projects? Like, have other towns gone to the state and they fund it? Do we have any history there?
I think that any legislator can ask for things to bring back to their town. I mean, that's how they get reelected, okay? And I mean, we won't, in the end, we won't just be dealing with Senator Anwar. He's the one who proposed this, but we'll need to get both of our state representatives involved in this process too, as once we pin down what we're asking for. So it really comes from both houses and so on. Okay, so Tony, you and I will need to set up a discussion with Anwar and his people.
Okay.
All right, Senator Anwar. Anything else on this? Okay. We now have the superintendent report. Already lost mine.
So the treatment plant continues to meet the NIPD's permit. Our maintenance staff made repairs to the gravity thickener collection arm and headwork wash auger. A new VFD was installed on blower number 3. Grease was removed from the secondary clarifier bleed valves. 3 operators completed an extensive PLC training. We continued to work on the Con-OSHA voluntary compliance review. We just received some feedback today as well. In the collection systems, we replaced 3 broken valves. I'm sorry, not 3. Replaced a broken valve at Pleasant Valley Pump Station. The Clark Street Pump Station pump and check valve maintenance was performed. Completed cleaning of off-road sewer lines. That's all the sewer lines in the right-of-ways. We've been putting a focused effort on cleaning those lines. It's been some time since we've done that, so those have all been completed now. The emergency call-outs for the month of October, we had 3 at the treatment plant, 1 at the pump stations, 0 blockages, 0 call before you digs, and 2 odor complaints. Capital improvement projects, the pump station upgrades, the 95% design comments were provided back to Arcadis for their review. We met with the South Windsor Engineering Department in Arcadis to discuss impacts of the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge on the Pleasant Valley Pump Station design. Essentially what's happening there, the town is looking at replacing the Pleasant Valley Bridge, which is adjacent to the pump station. The elevation, because of state regulations, the bridge has to come up 2 feet. So our entrance to the station is kind of a 90-degree to Pleasant Valley Road. So we're redesigning the roadway to come around from what direction is that?
I have no
Is that the
idea.
west side? So we're rerouting the driveway entrance, which is gonna make it better, but because we're doing that, some of the electrical components need to be moved around. There's some additional work that needs to be done with the design on that. The aeration wear gate, Weston Sampson's working on the bid spec for us to get that moving. ARPA projects, the Phase 4 sewer improvement, Green Mountain Pipe has met substantial completion before the November 16th deadline. We're holding retainage for 1 year before the project is closed out. The Clark Street line stop valve, VMS started construction last Thursday. They're expecting to be completed by next week. They've been working out this week. They have the pipe exposed, and we actually tested the bypass pumping today. Everything went smoothly. So tomorrow they're planning on running the actual bypass to get the line stop in place. So I am looking forward to getting this done. And all this work is being done on the force main, so. Moving on to the collector of revenues report. Demand intent to lien notices were generated $497,963 in November. Liens will be filed with the town clerk no later than December 5th. And alias tax warrants will be issued shortly thereafter. The commercial industrial collection rate is 99.38 for this year, and the residential rate is 92.04.
And I always ask this question, how are we doing this year compared to other years with those percentages?
I think we're right on target. The commercial industrial is down just a little bit. She's usually, I mean, you're talking maybe a 0.5%. You're talking 1 or 2 accounts with the commercial side. As far as the residential side, I think we're on target. Might be a little lower than where we were last year, but it seemed to be on target for this year.
Seems to be a lot better than it used to be.
So,
Much improved.
we'll ask around, Mr. Murray, any questions or comments?
Nope.
Vicky?
Nope.
Joe?
Nope.
All right. Okay, thank you. Just wanna make sure I don't have any questions here. All right. Any other items that people would like to discuss? I think we're done with the scheduled agenda
Well,
items.
I was curious, Vicky, what's your status? Are you an alternate now or are you a member?
I believe I'm still an alternate.
Why? Would you like, can you be a member?
I have some health concerns going on right now, so I'm going to probably pass on that at the moment.
I guess nominating you to be secretary is not gonna go well.
You missed that, we were.
Oh, really?
You're the last one in.
Is that the last one in?
Whoever comes next is it.
I tell you, I mean, you get a lot of credit for being the secretary, you don't have to do anything, you know? The risk is that you might have to run one of these meetings if Joe and I are both not here.
So, yeah. I think David was promoted to full member, so we're down
David,
one
yeah.
alternate. I
We'll have to
believe.
twist his arm, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
This is really nice.
Yes, it is.
30.